When Yamaha told me they would let me borrow the 2025 MT-07 for 2 months and review it, I just about lost my mind because I've been riding an MT-07 since 2020. I have the 2019 version and I was so excited to see what upgrades have been done 2 generations later. So without any further ado, let's get into a review of one of the best bikes ever created. So one of the things that's new on the 2025 version is that slipper clutch. So that's supposed to make engine braking less harsh. Right there, perfect. That's what I think it was designed for. Much more like city-friendly downshifting rather than, you know, going down from 10,000 RPM. When you're letting go of the throttle, when you're downshifting from a higher gear to third there, like, it's supposed to help you so it doesn't feel so jerky. And from what I've seen so far, I did take this bike to the track, and I will say yes, at the track when you're super high in the rev ranges, it's not as effective. That's my take on the slipper clutch. Half useful, half not. Better a slipper clutch than no slipper clutch. Hello dear. Vicky gave me a head nod, so that's good. Thank you Insta360 for being my channel sponsor. Very much appreciate all the swag that I get to motovlog with. On the helmet, I have the Ace Pro 2. This thing is like the most versatile camera. It's also what's recording the audio, so I have the Bluetooth mic hooked up to it, and that's what I'm recording my voice through. I don't have an ND filter on it because I feel like the footage from the Ace Pro 2 always like looks good regardless if it's sunny or shady or dark outside, especially in the dark. Oh my god. When I was down in Texas riding the MT, I went into Dallas at night and I just filmed on the Ace Pro 2. It was like 5.7K, and I was filming in pure mode for better low light capability, and oh my god, that footage turned out so good. I love this camera. It seems like it can do anything. If you're interested in getting a motovlog setup like I have with the Ace Pro 2 and the X5 and the Mic Air, I'll leave links to everything down in the description for you, and there's also a code on screen. If you use that at checkout, you can also score some free accessories. So I want to talk about the new thing on the block, that we now have ride-by-wire. Instead of a traditional cable inside the throttle that sends the signal to the engine, it's now twist the throttle and it goes into an ECU, and then the ECU tells you know, the valves what to do. And I think one of the concerns initially that I had was, well, that seems cool in terms of an electronics standpoint, but am I now going to be in a situation where the throttle response is not as snappy on the MT-07? Because that's the whole appeal. Like, that is the biggest appeal of the MT-07, is how torquey and nice it is down low. So I thought, does a ride-by-wire system now completely negate the fun that this bike is supposed to bring you? You know, being the MT-07, the master of torque 07. So I was a little bit worried about the ride-by-wire as much as I was excited about it. And now that I've gotten to use it a little bit, I can confidently say it feels no different than the throttle response on the 2019, which is what I'm daily riding. Like, it feels the same in sport mode. I will say, in sport mode. You have to keep it in sport mode to, I think, get the same effects that you got on the older bikes that didn't have any mode. If you keep it in street mode, it feels a little bit more sluggish. I mean, that's also to be expected. But in sport mode, it feels exactly the same. Like, I have no problem. And I have faith in what Yamaha has done to it. So whatever they did to get it dialed in just right, they were successful. It doesn't take away any of the fun that the previous bikes had. It feels really good still. And I'm sure that was a consideration, you know, obviously for them when they were making this. You know, you can't take away the one thing that really makes this bike a standout from the rest. All right, so another feature I'm trying to get used to is the self-canceling turn signals. So I don't know if that's intended to detect when you lean and cancel right away, or if it just cancels after a certain amount of time. So I have to play a bit more with that feature. It is still better than not having self-canceling turn signals, because then it will never cancel itself. In terms of flickability, oh my gosh, yeah, this bike feels super nice and lightweight to throw around. It's just as fun, I think, as it's always been. I feel like weight reduction wise, it doesn't feel any too different than my 2019 MT-07. I think the wet weight is like 403 pounds. But also my bike is not stock, so I don't know. I don't want to like really super compare the handling of that one to this one, especially because I have clip-ons on that one, so. So I wanted to do that because to show you and talk about something new that Yamaha's done to this bike. and that's these little grooves in the gas tank. I don't know if you can see them very well on the camera. Can't look down for too long. But they've put these grooves on the tank that help with the acoustics of the bike. Now, the MT-07 already sounds freaking amazing, especially if you put an exhaust on it. Now that they've added extra panels to make it vibrate, like, and give you that sound even more, it sounds even more great. And this is just the stock exhaust on it, so let's not be too critical, because of course nobody wants the stock exhaust on there. And I'm not even sure if honestly the USA version of this bike is like, the exhaust is different than the one in Europe, because in Europe they have even like stricter noise regulations that they have to follow, so not sure there. But the panels are supposed to direct the vibrations that go through the gas tank and reverberate through the gas tank, more to you as the rider. So it gives you the noise, but it doesn't give people around you the noise. Take that as you will. I feel like some people are all about making the noise, but others are definitely not. So I'm sure your neighbors will appreciate that, when you're coming home at 3 a.m. on this thing with a full Akrapovic exhaust on it. But I love that Yamaha's thought to do something like this, because they are a music company in the end, or a sound company. They sell sound. And if you notice, the TFT dash, which is also something that's new from the model that I have, the 2019, you have different themes that you can display, and this one right here that I have going on is the piano keys. I guess I'll call it the piano keys display. So the x-axis is revolutions per minute, and then the y is your speed. I think that's pretty cool. Definitely something very Yamaha-esque. I kind of want to open the throttle right here, but I can't tell if behind me there's a cop car or not, so I'm just gonna chill out. But in the meantime, I want to talk about one of the other things on this bike, and that is the wind. All of the wind. I'm getting all of the wind, I feel like, right here in my chest area at the moment. Even, yeah, when I put my hand, I can tell where it's going. Yeah, I'm sure this is probably going to affect the quality of the microphone and what you can hear, but you get a lot of noise and a lot of wind on this bike, and it's also a windy day outside. So I think the aerodynamics of the front end even look like they've been improved just with the new redesign, but I don't know if that actually does much to help you as the rider. So yeah, you're fully gonna be getting a lot of wind, even here at like 50 some miles an hour. No, don't expect a very protected ride. I'm sure you can probably hear it in the microphone. In fact, right now I'm vlogging with the Insta360 Mic Air, and I'm using the X5, which is always in single lens mode when I'm motovlogging with it, so it's only using this lens that's looking back at me to film. And I have my ND filters on there, which I'm super thankful of, because it's kind of like a partly cloudy day out right now, and so that will help when the sun actually does come out. Helps make those colors pop. I want to talk a little bit about the seating position on this bike, because they've changed it a little bit, but not much. So the foot pegs are a whole 10 millimeters. That's right, a whole centimeter. So not even half an inch lower. I guess if you're super tall, maybe that helps you. For me, I feel like no difference in how my feet sit at all. But I'm 5'4", so maybe for me it doesn't matter as much. I know one of the things that I was talking about in my 2019 MT-07 review, the 5-year review of that bike, is that like if you're a super tall person, you may be cramped on this bike. Like, it's a compact bike, the ergonomics are a little bit more compact. They're very functional in terms of being able to like reach controls and things like that. But if you're really tall, I think you're going to be hunched over. You might be a little bit squished, might not be in a position that's super comfortable, but I can't speak for that. You need to be like 6'5" to tell me if that's true or not. If you're shorter than me, like 5'4", like if you're under 5 feet, I think you might struggle with this bike. I do tippy toe on this bike. However, one thing that they did do to mitigate, making this bike more friendly for shorter riders, is the gas tank is, I think, like 25 millimeters, 2.5 centimeters narrower than it was before, so you can get your feet a little bit closer to the bike, so you don't have to straddle it as far. So that actually does help with a little bit with if you're shorter, being able to get your feet a little bit closer to the bike. The rider triangle is a little bit different, but not a whole lot. The handlebars have been widened a little bit and pushed back towards the rider, so they're not quite as high as they used to be on the previous gen. Of course, to me, these still feel high because I've been riding with clip-ons, so my handlebars are like down here on my MT-07. So now these handlebars, like if you wanted to change these handlebars out, if you wanted handlebars that were higher, like that's very easy to do. You can easily swap
swap out handlebars or put on clip-ons, but I think like the default ones that come stock with from the factory are pretty dang good. They feel comfortable. I feel comfortable. Now I am set right now on doing a slightly longer ride with the bike because one of the things that I wanted to check out that I know was an issue for me in the past was my right arm getting numb from the vibrations in the handlebars, and more my right arm than my left arm, like the arm with the exhaust on it. And I want to see if some of those vibrations have been reduced so that my hand isn't as fatigued. So I'll check in with that at the end of the ride and let you guys know if I feel like more or less fatigue in my arm on this bike than I do on my version. But generally speaking, like the MT-07 is not a buttery smooth bike. It's not designed with that type of riding in mind. It's designed to be fun and torquey down low. And that engine torque comes with a bit of vibration. Not a huge deal, but yeah, I am curious to see how my hand fares, because I do think this bike is significantly more comfortable than, you know, the modded version that I'm riding. Oh, look, we have a biker friend behind us. He's on an R6, an old R6, I think. So one thing that Yamaha has added to this bike that I think people were asking for is ride modes, because now you have ride-by-wire, so you can control. So I think you have 2 traction control settings and 3 throttle map settings on this. So you have 3 different modes. You got street, sport mode, which I'm in right now, and then custom, which you can set to be whatever you want. I think right now it's set for a rain mode for me. So I'm gonna go back into sport mode because this is where I'm most familiar handling this bike in sport mode. This is to me where it feels the most similar to the older versions of the bike. Now, one other thing, listen, I'm not gonna be doing wheelies on a bike that isn't mine. Also, I can't do them, and I'm scared just yet, so I'm not going to be doing none of that. But if you were curious whether the traction control settings now on this bike affect that at all in sport mode, I can say that they don't, because I watched Chase on Two Wheels talk about that, and he was doing wheelies on it, and he said that they did not affect it. So there you go. That's your answer to that question. You could still do wheelies on the MT-07, which is arguably the wheelie machine. So I'm super happy to see features like ride modes on the MT-07, because now in the past I've said that, hey, you know, the MT-07's not really a beginner friendly bike. I wouldn't recommend it to a beginner just because it's not friendly down low with the torque. It's got a lot of punch, and if you don't know how to control that, it's a little bit difficult and you can get into tricky situations fast. So I wasn't recommending the MTO, like the older versions of the MT-07, because of that reason. It's just got a lot of punch. But now, because you have ride modes, you can effectively adjust that and get rid of that super punchy torque down low. It was like traditionally very hard in first and second, even more so in first than in second, to be very smooth getting on the throttle and getting off the throttle on this thing. But now with the 2025 version and the different ride modes, you could put it in rain mode as a beginner and leave it there for a year if you want to, until it takes you to get comfortable with your riding skill and all that jazz. So now I actually would recommend this. Thank you for waiting, sir. I really appreciate it. Thank you. To a beginner, because you can put it in custom modes and you're good. But in the past, I wouldn't have said buy this bike as a beginner. So effectively, this bike has now been made more versatile to a lot more different riders. So I appreciate that. If you don't want that, Yamaha does have an MT-03 that you can start on. Also an amazing bike to start on. So, oh my god, I love the acceleration on this bike. What I don't love right now is how freaking windy it is outside. So, on the same note though, the elephant in the room with the ride-by-wire system, you would think, hey, we've got ride-by-wire now. Does that mean we have cruise control? No, we do not have cruise control, and that is absolutely one of the features I remember saying in my 5-year review of the 2019 MT-07 that I would love to see on a future model, and 2 generations later we do not have cruise control on this bike. So I'm not sure, maybe that's a feature they're saving for a later iteration of this particular model. So I predict there's probably going to be 4, maybe 5 versions of this body style of the MT-07 before it goes through some new revamp. And I'm not sure if they're saving, you know, cruise control for just a later version of this bike, or if they're kind of like not planning on putting that in any of the future body styles for this bike, which, given like their past history with how often they update the body style and do like a complete rework of the MT, it'll be for about 4 years from now. that I would expect to see that if they were going to come out with like a newer model. So we may be waiting for cruise control for a while, or maybe we'll have it for next year. Who knows? So I believe it is on the MT-09. So I'm not sure. Maybe just something that they're saving for the higher model bikes. The other thing I would have loved to see, aside from cruise control on this thing, is the bi-directional quick shifter, which you can get as an option from the factory, but does not come installed on the normal version of this bike.
Okay, hello, future Lali here, because a quick interjection on that note. So the 2025 version does have an automatic transmission option, so no clutch lever, nothing to shift, it's just some paddles on the end of the handlebar. And then all of this is kind of just covered up by a plastic cowling that they put over. I'll insert a picture up here on screen. So actually, in addition to the automatic transmission on this bike, you also have the option to add a factory accessory quick shifter, so it's now sold from the factory. Doesn't come stock with the base model, but you can add it on. So you have automatic transmission option, quick shifter option, or full base model, use all your hands and feet. I feel like people probably have a lot to say about the automatic transmission, but I'm actually glad it's there as an option, especially for riders who are disabled and still want to ride, so thumbs up Yamaha.
This bike is $8,600 from the dealership. Not insanely expensive, but not cheap either. Let's see, I'm gonna go right in this corner and see if we can't just like place it right here. But I do want to show you like beautiful redesign. I remember, you guys, when I was at EICMA, the redesign of this bike, and I sat down in front of it, I was like, wow, this is what Yamaha should have done when they came out with the 2021 version, which I was not a fan of. They finally did it justice. The front end looks absolutely gorgeous, very futuristic. Now that Tron Airs just came out, this bike feels like it fits right in, and the whole like marketing thing is the dark side of Japan, so it's very like futuristic marketing campaign to this bike. They kind of nailed it. I wish they would like lean into that a little more, because a lot of people, especially on social media right now, love doing like nighttime shots, and you know, that mysterious rider that doesn't show his face. And I feel like Yamaha could lean into that marketing so much with this bike. Like, they could have the hype around this bike that BMW had with the S1000RR when they did the redesign of it, and people were losing their minds, including myself, because I thought that was a gorgeous bike. But damn, 07 redesign looks hella good. Like, I'm so happy that this bike is getting so much love, because I think it very much deserves it. I want to talk about the engine for a second. CP2 engine, same thing, nothing's been changed. 689 cc's, I believe. Still sounds great. Definitely slap an Akrapovic exhaust on this, please, if you're getting it. I believe they said something about the mid-range throttle being even a little bit better now. They were able to get more out of it. They come from the factory with the Dunlop Sportmax tires on there. You can see I put a little bit of heat into them from the track. It's still got a couple pieces of rubber on there that need to be scrubbed off. Yeah, so the swing arm is a little bit different. I guess it's got a new pivot point. The redesign, I feel like I sit pretty good in the suspension. I don't feel like it's too stiff or too loose. I don't think it's super pogo-y. But maybe if you're heavier than I am, you might have a different experience. I feel like suspension is very much a personal preference thing. You do have adjustable preload and rebound in the shock. No, the forks don't look like they're adjustable at all. The other big update for this version is now we've got the upside down forks. Upside down forks allow more of the stability to be up here rather than down here towards the wheel. So that translates to better handling. And we also have, for this year, radial mounted brake calipers, which these mounting bolts go towards the center of the wheel. And that means when you're hard braking, it helps with your braking power. In theory, I've heard people say mixed things about the brakes on this bike. I would also have to agree that the brakes feel a little bit soft, but I think if you wanted a little bit like more grip and bite to your brakes, maybe get some steel braided brake lines. I'm gonna move this camera out of the way just for a second, because I want to show you guys the dash here. That's another thing I like about the Insta360. This particular mount, this like pivot point, you can adjust it like either backwards like this, or you can adjust it sideways like this. You could also mount this in a different direction, and then you could also super easily get this camera on and off, because it has this like quick release mount that's also like semi-magnetic to help you position it. So I want to show you the new TFT display here. So real quick, this is the piano keys theme, but they have some different themes. So with these buttons here, I know you can also now do navigation. You can do like Garmin maps, they said on this thing. Have your music on there. Weather, what? Connection failed, check Bluetooth connection. Oh, okay, so you have to connect your phone to it, and then it'll, okay, gotcha. If you go to your settings, you can click vehicle info. You can also select like what you want it to display on your dash. So
range, coolant, air. 77 right now. What a beautiful day for riding. That's the new TFT dash. I think it's cool. You get a couple different features that you don't on the old bikes, but I don't think this is like super confusing to navigate. In fact, one thing that I really enjoy while you're riding, the mode change is instant. Like, I press the button and it immediately changes. I was recently riding and reviewing a ZX6R, and like the mode was so sluggish. You like push it and you have to like wait 3 seconds before it actually changes, and that makes you like look down at the screen more to see if it's actually like changing, so you're like doing this the whole time. It was not ideal. All right, let's see where I want to be. Gotta get a behind the scenes shot for my friend. No. My lens is so dirty. Oh my god, it's so windy. It's literally blowing me backwards. Wind, go away. I hope you're not bringing rain. This bike is an absolute masterclass in its category. Like, I know it has competitors in this same space, but it really doesn't. Just because, like, okay, Yamaha's had so many iterations of this bike and people already loved it. Like, there's a reason it's one of their best sellers. But you take something that's like 95% perfect previously and you make it like 97% perfect. You're almost there, and that's what this bike feels like to me. I'm liking this new setup. I love the versatility of the X5 being able to film in 360 and single lens mode, because that's important to me as like doing very traditional motovlog videos. I want the single lens mode. The Ace Pro 2 helps me get a super wide angle out in front of me. The colors always look super good on it. I do recommend this motovlog setup. Code is in the description, also on screen. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!